2 minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Thirty seconds till broadcast. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Let me tell you, the response to the show has been absolutely amazing. People can't believe that a young conservative millennial continues to fight for constitutional principles, traditional values, and talks about issues that some are even afraid to talk about. But we do it because we understand the importance of this. And now we're seeing it absolutely blow up all across the nation.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yes, it is the Voice of Reason. Welcome into it. Great to have you today on a Monday. We are rocking and rolling, cramming 10 pounds of reason into a 5-pound bag because that's what we do each and every day with our hour of excellence in broadcasting. Let's just admit it, right? Welcome in. We got a lot to get to today. If you're wondering while we do the live streaming, we are broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here on the flagship station of the Big Talker, KQAM in Wichita, Kansas. All over on multiple radio stations, TV, live streaming on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, also online at HooserReason.com. You can always go and check those out. We appreciate it very much. There's so much I want to get to today. I am excited because here in Kansas, at least, if you're listening in Kansas, our primary election is tomorrow, and I am so excited. This is, again, our Super Bowl, our time to shine by showing up and actually voting the way we do as much as we possibly can. So I am really excited to turn out to the voting booth tomorrow. I will be showing up on Election Day, not doing the mail-in ballot thing, as so many like to do. But if you do, that's all the power to you, but I will be showing up on actual Election Day. And as we go into election season, we really haven't done much with it on the show lately, which I think we need to. I really do think we need to. So let's go ahead and do a
Election 2020.
So I have been going through my emails, and you can always email me, HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com, and let me know your thoughts on the show. I have been getting inundated with emails from outside of Kansas, by the way, too. I mean, just right now, 1, 2, 3, 4... at least 5 emails right off the bat of individuals emailing me from outside of the state, meaning first you're listening, which is awesome, and I appreciate that, but asking Andy, what the heck is going on in the state of Kansas with the elections? As you know, or as many know, there's an open U.S. Senate seat with our one of our senators retiring, stepping down, and it is up for grabs in this election, and it has been hugely focused on the national scene because we have a lot of great candidates that are running and some candidates that'll do great, but there are some that Washington, D.C. would like, I think, as opposed to other individuals would like. And with some money coming in, massive amounts of money coming in from all over the country into this seat here in Kansas, this could be a swing. And while we're looking at trying to maintain the majority we have in the U.S. Senate in Washington, D.C., Kansas, out of all places in the country, Kansas is one of those seats that they're looking at to, is it going to flip Democrat? Is it going to maintain a Republican? And what type of Republican is actually going to get this seat? So I figured we had to bring on a great guy onto the program today to talk to us about it, as there's been so much money coming in from Republican super PACs out of Washington, D.C. to attack a Republican. How crazy is that? Think about that for a second. We have our Republican establishment in D.C. saying we need to maintain a Republican majority in the Senate for Mitch McConnell when it's its own PAC that's actually coming out and has spent millions of dollars going after this guy. He's the former Secretary of State for the state of Kansas. He's been an advisor for President Donald Trump on immigration throughout his presidency. He's also been part of the Election Integrity Commission with Vice President Mike Pence a while back before they unfortunately dismantled that one. But and he's candidate for U.S. Senate here in the state of Kansas as well. Kris Kobach is on the line with this. Kris, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm doing great, and I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's the last little push that you have going on today and tomorrow. How are you feeling about the election right now?
I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. It's going to be a really close election. The polling consistently has shown the top two, me and Roger Marshall, within single digits. Latest polling has me with a single-digit lead, but that's within the margin of error. So it's going to take every vote and every voter getting out tomorrow.
It is going to take every voter to get out there. Now, as I mentioned, we've been getting tons of emails about this from all over the country from listeners and wondering what the heck's going on in Kansas. The importance of this seat, which you never would think that Kansas, the flyover state, the one that everybody kind of dismisses and ignores, this Senate seat is so important in an election right now because with the whole debacle between President Trump and Joe Biden going into this seat, then we have the open Senate seats that could potentially flip back and forth. Kansas is going to be a detrimental seat to decide on who's going to keep the majority in the Senate, isn't it?
Well, potentially, but I think what you're seeing here is you're seeing the rhino establishment in D.C. trying to manipulate who the senator is that the Kansas voters choose. And I think it's less of will the Senate seat be in play, because Rasmussen, which is a neutral polling organization, says no matter who wins the primary, Kansas remains a likely Republican hold. And they've looked specifically at me because I'm obviously the more conservative candidate. And, liberals have been telling us for decades, Andy, that conservatives are, have a harder time winning elections. That's simply not true. That's what they said about Donald Trump going into the 2016 presidential election. And, the amazing thing is Mitch McConnell and his allies have spent over $5 million trying to defeat me in this primary. They favor a yes man in the form of Roger Marshall. But what they should have done is just save that money and spent it in the general election for whoever wins. Or they should have spent that money in Arizona or Colorado, where we've got Republican incumbents on the ropes. But once again, the rhino establishment in D.C. attacks a conservative whenever he's in the lead. And by the way, this isn't the first time it's happened. Your listeners will remember in 2016 when John McCain was falling behind to a conservative challenger named Kelly Ward. McConnell did the same thing, dumped a ton of money on Ward and knocked out the conservative leader because they always protect the incumbents or the establishment rhinos. And so anyway, that's what they're trying to do here. But we have an opportunity to make history in Kansas and show that we actually can defy and beat the D.C. establishment and elect our own conservative.
It's a tough task because predominantly Kansas has nominated many kind of more moderate candidates. I mean, we've had Pat Roberts, our senator, for a while. We've had Jerry Moran for a while, and more so on the kind of moderate side of politics for a long time. Bob Dole's kind of the big name that everybody knows out of the state of Kansas, which was more a little bit on the moderate side of the race. And I don't know if it's because the establishment just gets scared thinking it's too radical and too quote-unquote fringe. I don't know if that's really the political spectrum. I can't see it being the political spectrum in Kansas. I don't know why we always shy, and we've seen it in the national elections as well with Mitt Romney, with John McCain. Whenever Republicans get fearful we may lose a majority or have a negative impact with the media pushing some kind of negative narrative against us, we always seem to go soft and see how wide we can open up that umbrella to make it as mushy and soft as possible. And historically, every time we've tried it, we failed miserably because then Republican constituents get upset.
Yeah, that's right. And times have changed in politics. This is not the 1970s or 1980s when Bob Dole could reach across the aisle and make a deal with Scoop Jackson and the Democrats would come to terms that were mutually beneficial. the Democrats and the far left have declared war on our Constitution, on our Second Amendment rights, on the police, on ICE, on our way of life, you name it. And we can't send someone who's squishy and malleable to the Senate. We have to send a fighter. We have to send someone who is a staunch conservative. This time, more than any other time in our history, we need people in the Senate who will hold the line, not people who will go to the Senate looking to make compromises.
Yeah, and Mitch McConnell's a little scared of that, which is why, as you mentioned, they've spent millions of dollars against you in the state of Kansas, which is crazy. I mean, yeah, you would think that you would save that money and wait until whoever gets the nomination to be able to push that into the state if we're concerned about the seat potentially flipping, to be able to preserve it come the general election. On the other side of it, Democrats have sunk massive amounts of money into this election as well, with the Democrat opponent here, Barbara Bollier, former state senator in the state of Kansas, and she's gotten millions of dollars as well. But there's a pact that's been running trying to get you the nomination, and their thought was that if the crazy radical fringe guy ends up getting it, then more money's going to be filtered into her. Maybe not to beat you because the polling doesn't show that, but to be able to filter money into other Democrat candidates. Is that their philosophy going on right now?
I'm not exactly sure what they're doing. I mean, it appears to me that what they're doing is they're attacking both of the top two contenders. So they're attacking me and Roger Marshall and trying to brand us for the upcoming general election. They're sitting on a ton of money while we Republicans battle each other out, and I have to deal with the establishment in D.C. And so they already know how they're going to brand me. They always brand me as too conservative. My opponent, Marshall, is a relatively new figure to statewide politics in Kansas, and so the Democrats are using that as an opportunity to brand him, and they're branding him as someone who has flip-flopped, and they're calling him a fake, and they're showing us that will be how the Democrats fight against him if he wins tomorrow's election. So I think really what they're doing is they're just trying to attack both of the leading contenders.
Yeah. Going in, let's talk about some little internal politics because I kind of enjoy that. Going into a general election, let's say you get the nomination and go head-to-head with Barbara Bollier. And for those that live outside of the state listening to us, it's going to be a fun election because she was a former Republican in the state legislature, got reelected, and then flipped her seat to a Democrat, saying that the party's gone too radical, she didn't like it, and flipped over to a Democrat. And she's predominantly always voted with Democrats anyway, so it wasn't really much of a shock. But going into a race like that with a former quote-unquote Republican turned Democrat and a conservative candidate like yourself, if you get the nomination, how do you go into a general election in that manner and win over the constituency that is vast majoritively Republican?
So the answer is you have to look at her strategy. It is going to be to deceive the voters and use the fact that she once was a nominal Republican and now is a Democrat to suggest to voters that she's a moderate voice. And you can even see in her early ads, she's going to try to portray this image. And most voters in Kansas have never heard of her, by the way. She's only known in the wealthy Mission Hills area where she represents the Kansas City metro area. So she's trying to give her positive moderate brand, but her voting record is one of the most outrageously liberal in the entire Kansas legislature. I mean, she is not just pro-abortion, she's radically pro-abortion. She has said some lives are not worth living, and that's why we need abortion. She's not just anti-gun, she's radically anti-gun. And so, and on down the issue. So our objective after winning the primary will be to immediately start informing voters what her real record is so that she can't pull the wool over voters' eyes. Once enough voters realize just how radical she is, then she won't be able to pull off the I'm a moderate, I'm the common sense vote, the kind of lie that so often works in Kansas in those areas where Democrats have a chance of winning.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking with Kris Kobach, candidate for U.S. Senate here in the state of Kansas, as many people have been really looking at this seat, which I think is going to be a fun election going into tomorrow. Talking about the need to keep this Republican. There's a few other seats with Michigan, Arizona, a few others that are potentially flip-flops, Maine up there with Susan Collins. If we get a Democrat majority in the Senate, what would Donald Trump be able to do? Because if they have a House majority and a Senate majority, Donald Trump would pretty much be a lame duck if he got reelected for the next 4 years. We need to maintain this as a Republican seat.
There's no question. We have to maintain this as a Republican seat. And, that's job one here. And I wouldn't have gotten into this race if the data didn't show very clearly that it will remain a Republican seat. We have to remember Trump won Kansas by approximately 20% margin in 2016. And there's every indication, all of our polling shows he's just as strong now as he won then. So with Trump winning with a 20% margin again, whoever the Senate nominee is should have a very strong tailwind, because for the Senate candidate to lose, you'd have to have that 20% drop off of voting for Trump and switch over to vote Democrat in the Senate. That's highly unlikely. In fact, oftentimes a Senate candidate of the same party as the president will overperform the president. So I think the dynamics of this election are good for those of us who are Republican, especially conservatives. I'm talking about the general election. I don't think Kansas is going to lose this seat under any circumstances.
No, I'm right there with you. Well, good luck to you, my friend. Kris Kobach, candidate for Senate here in the state of Kansas. Good luck to you, my friend. I'm sure we'll be in touch here real soon, and we'll see how it turns out tomorrow.
All right. Good talking to you.
Hey, you as well right there. Appreciate that very much. Kris Kobach here in the state of Kansas, and we appreciate his time very much. He'll be on Lou Dobbs tonight here on Fox, so make sure to tune in for that as well. Lots more to get to here on The Voice of Reason. We'll talk about election season and more coming up. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com.
For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hooser Media Network, visit us on the website at HooserReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, welcome into the Voice of Reason. Great to have you today on a Monday, kicking off a brand new week. I'm excited. You're excited. We're all excited. It's the Voice of Reason. You can always find us on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, which we are recording at a little bit different time today as our flagship here on KQAM has some sporting events going on. So our normal time of doing the program, they're going to be doing sporting events, so we won't be able to do it in studio here. So we're doing it a little bit earlier, and you can catch us on our other stations that we're broadcasting on. You can also find us on the podcast as well, and you can just watch us on the live stream there too. So a little bit different, but we see some killer numbers going so far on social media. So maybe just to maybe change of time allows different people to catch it. So thank you for that, and we appreciate it very much. And I don't like to focus on just like Kansas specific issues on a national broadcast like this, because obviously people in California don't really care what's going on in Kansas per se, unless it's relatable. But I think I've gotten so many emails from people outside of Kansas wondering what's going on with our election in Kansas, because it's making national news. The fact that we're eating our own to the point, I mean, look, I've told you before, primary season is the greatest season of all time. The primary election is the most important election you could possibly have, because by the general election, you already know who you're going to vote for, predominantly either the R or the D on the ballot. But the primary election sets the tone on what we're going to stand for as a party. They help set the platform. They help set the dialogue. They help set what standards they're going to hold. They help set what level that they're going to compromise at or what they're not going to compromise on. What important issues are actually to them. And that's important. That's why the primary election is huge. But we take it a little bit too far when we have a dark pack coming out of Mitch McConnell in Washington, D.C., the Republican, spending $3 to $5 million in Kansas, the flyover state of Kansas. They're spending it in the primary for Kansas because they don't want the conservative to get it. Now, look, all the candidates, I do need to do the disclaimer, all the candidates are great. I'm great personal friends with Kris Kobach. We've had him on the show many, many times when he was Secretary of State for the state of Kansas, when he ran for governor a few years back. He's a great guy. He's a great personal friend. I love him to death. Congressman Roger Marshall, who's the other big candidate in the race. He's our congressman in the 1st district on the western part, like the second half of the state, the whole western half of the state of Kansas is his district for that. He's a great guy. I've reached out to him numerous times to get him on the local show here and on the national broadcast, and they haven't responded. Haven't been able to get a hold of him. So, unfortunately, we weren't able to talk to him. There's some other great candidates in the race as well. But Kris Kobach is by far the most conservative one out of all of those, and the fact that he's worked with President Trump and the fact that he's done so many things at the federal level. Again, he's going to be on Lou Dobbs tonight on Fox. If anybody watches that, you can catch him on there as well. But it made national news because someone who's so close with President Trump, who has worked so close with him, he's on the advisory board for the private wall funding down at the border because immigration's been a huge thing for him. That the establishment Republicans in Washington, D.C. are spending $3 to $5 million against him in a primary because they don't want him in Washington, D.C. All the polling shows that whoever gets the nomination, that they're going to beat the Democrat here in Kansas just by a little bit different margin. But all of them are going to win predominantly. But the crazy part is that on the other side of it, you have the Democrats having a super PAC here in Kansas, spending money, encouraging people to vote for Kris Kobach. Touting him as the conservative, touting him as the great one, and you wonder why. Well, for those that may not follow politics a whole lot or understand the inner workings of the deceptiveness and the sleaziness of politics, that's exactly where it comes into play. Democrats think, number one, that if the Democrats hear Kris Kobach, the conservative in Kansas, gets the nomination, that riles them up because they hate him so impassionately like they do Donald Trump, that he would be the great one to spend more money to a Democrat to help defeat him in the election. So that boosts their numbers up. So get the radical fringe guy, quote unquote, on there. So that way they can boost their numbers. That helps them for one to possibly beat him, but they're not going to beat him. Second off, if they don't, then at least they funneled millions of dollars into a candidate that can help funnel it back into the DNC and the Democrats in order to get a better candidate elsewhere or to help fight financially in different races that are extremely important. So it's the deceptiveness that are in politics that actually have them trying to advocate for a solid candidate because they think it's a threat to them and easier to beat, we realize it's actually going to, make them shoot themselves in the foot, but that's what Democrats predominantly do. So it's the inner workings of politics, and because of all of this focus on Kansas, it's made national news all over the place. We'll continue this when we come back. We have lots to get to here on The Voice of Reason for a Monday. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
when reason meets radio. You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Great to have you today on a Monday, trying to rebrand the millennial generation one radio listener at a time. By the way, if you have not done so, the monthly newsletter came out this morning. So if you have not done so and become a Hoosierholic, then you missed out on this one. But make sure to go to HooserReason.com. You can find the live streaming on there. You can also sign up for the newsletter. The first thing that pops up and says, do you want to become a Hoosierholic? And your response needs to be, heck yeah. Want to become a Hoosierholic. You can do that just by putting in your email. It's free, no charge. We're not going to blow up your email and fill it with a bunch of spam either. Just a monthly newsletter, maybe one or two throughout the month if there's something really important going on, but that's about it. So go there, go to HooserReason.com. You can subscribe, become a Hoosierholic, get the monthly newsletter, talk about some important issues, learn about some fun things of the month, some things we're doing with the show, where I'm going to be at, some guests that are going to be on the program, plus the Hooser Media Network, as we have some great things building and growing there as well. So it's really cool. Make sure to go there, HooserReason.com. And we appreciate it. You can also email me, HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com, which I don't know if you noticed or not, but we have a couple new segments for the show as we talk to different candidates going into election season.
Election 2020.
Yeah, there we go. And now that we've started to get enough emails, I'm going to start reading emails on the air. If I'll ask your permission or I'll keep your name out of it. But if it's an interesting topic, then we're going to go to the Voice of Reason mailbox.
What's in the mailbox?
You like that? See, that's right. But today, we're going to do a different segment as well called The Big News of the Day, or What's Trending.
What's trending today?
Yeah, there we are. So the big news today from the Daily Mail is that Donald Trump has launched another attack on mail-in voting with rants against, quote, illegal late-night coup in Nevada, while Republicans worry about his onslaught with the hurt them in the mailbox, with the ballot box in November. Now, so many people are doing the mail-in thing. I can't do the mail-in thing. I don't care for the mail-in ballot thing. I'm going to go to the voting booth on Election Day because that's what I like. So tomorrow before I come to work, I will go to the voting booth and I will vote before I come into the studio because that's my civic duty and that's what I will be doing and because that's what I actually enjoy, is going there and getting my sticker and being all civic duty-ish like and making it all patriotic. And I think a lot of people like to do that as well. But Donald Trump has been, rightly so, concerned about mail-in voter fraud. There's been numerous cases, and yet when we mention it, Democrats kind of put turn the blind eye and kind of ignore it and be like, that's not really happening. Because that's just what they like to do. Because they realize if we just ignore it and we make you sound cuckoo and crazy when that happens, then they can really manipulate it any way they want to. Do you remember the story all the way back when for the governor's race a few years back in the state of Georgia and Stacey Abrams and the race that went on down there? And while they had provisional and mail-in ballots, for some, they did the election, she lost, she was upset about it, and then all of a sudden, 2 days later, oh yeah, by the way, we found 5 big crates of different mail-in voting ballots that we forgot that were in the trunk of our car. We better start counting these, and 95% of them were for Stacey Abrams, shockingly, right? And she still lost, but that was their attempt of, oh, wait a second, we're going to pull out the reserves and see if this pushes us over the edge. And it caused a lot of concern for voter fraud. There was also a study done, kind of an individual study, of somebody that sent 100 mail ballots to a P.O. box. And out of the 100 that he sent, 97 showed up. So 3 of them went missing. So they're even encouraging individuals that if you do a mail-in ballot, to wait, fill it out, and then take it to your voting precinct to turn it in person as opposed to actually sending it in the mail, so that way it doesn't have even a 2 or 3% chance of getting lost in the mail. Just turn it into the mail to the precinct and be done with it. Know that your vote was actually counted. There's a lot of skepticism of mail-in ballots because you don't know. You put it in the mail and then you just kind of hope. Now, here in Kansas, you have a system where you can actually track it like you do any other box or package. You can track when it actually gets received and counted, sort of thing, which is kind of neat. And I'm sure some states do that as well. But I think there's rightly so a concern for mail-in ballot voting. Now, they say it's not systematic and it's not crazy oppression. It's crazy if you think that that's all happening. Okay, but has there really been a study done? They say there's no proof that there's actually voter fraud going on with mail-in ballots or voter fraud altogether in any way, shape, or form. But when we've tried it, it's failed miserably because we haven't been allowed to really try it, have we? Have we? No. As I mentioned, the guest that we just had on a little bit ago, Kris Kobach, former Secretary of State in Kansas and candidate for the U.S. Senate. He was part of the Election Integrity Commission. And the Election Integrity Commission wanted to look at the integrity of our elections. Are there multiple votes going out? Are there duplicate registrations? Are people voting when they shouldn't be? Many states are trying to allow illegal aliens to vote, which if you look at our Constitution, constitutionally, it says the states, you get to set the parameters, but as long as you're a U.S. citizen, you're good to go, baby. So there's a requirement. This is a fun debate to have with progressives, by the way, because they want you to have to use your identity to, show your insurance of your car, to be able to buy alcohol or tobacco, to try and go into a bar. You got to use your ID for all those things, but to actually vote in your civic duty, they don't want you to do that. So they try and take it away. No, you can't do that. That is infringement. That is voter right violation because that's racist. Well, first off, to think that it's racist for voter IDs means that you think that, people of minority descent don't have enough money or resources to get a driver's license or an ID, which to me, that would be racist to assume that they're too poor to get any type of identification. I don't know. That's just me thinking out loud, though. But second off, I don't know anybody that doesn't have an ID. And third off, if you have one requirement from the U.S. government that says from the Constitution, in order to vote, you need to be a U.S. citizen, which would negate any type of illegal alien from being able to vote. But then it's up to the state to verify if you're a U.S. citizen to meet that one requirement that you're a U.S. citizen. And any state can choose how to do that, whether they're a little more loosey-goosey, just, register and you're fine. And once you go through the registration, you're great. Here in Kansas, we had for a while, you needed documentation for a birth certificate or some type of documentation that you're a naturalized citizen or something just to prove that you are who you are. And then you have your ID when you show up to the voting booth. There you go. You're fulfilled the obligation of the Constitution that says that you need to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote. That's all it says. So how you come up with that verification, how you come up with that, that's up to you. And that you should only be able to vote one time. And there's been a long history of Democrats abusing that system by busing people from precinct to precinct. There was actually video documentation of it just a couple years ago in New York City with them busing campaigns, taking buses loads of people to precinct to precinct to precinct voting. Here in Kansas, they had issues of people having laminated voting guides for people that had a tough time speaking English to go to a voting booth to vote because they didn't know who to vote for, but they knew to go and vote, and they had a little laminated card telling them who to vote for on that. That is voter manipulation. If you go all the way back during like the Ellis Island times in New York City, if you ever watched the movie Gangs of New York, it's a wild movie, kind of radical, kind of interesting movie, but it's a good movie. I really enjoy it. They did this, and it was actually very accurate, where you come off the boat, you need food, you need clothes, you need housing, you need a job. The political parties would be more than welcome. The Democrats, majoritively, would be more than welcome to give you those things. We'll give you your food. We'll give you some clothes. We'll give you some housing. You're not going to be charged for any of this. All you have to do is vote Democrat. Just keep us in power. We'll continue to bring this to you. This has been the Democrat mantra since the start of the Democrat Party. The keeping people in their box, keeping control over them, and as long as you keep us in power, we'll continue to control you. That's what they did with the slave owners back then as the plantations. That's what they did with slaves. That's what they did with the KKK when they freed the slaves because, well, we can't have that now, so we need to have the KKK in order to oppress and try to intimidate the black vote and the black people. We can't be having that. They didn't vote back then, but to intimidate them, to try and not allow them to register to vote once we started the civil rights movement in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, because we can't be having that. So you had to have certain requirements. You had to read a certain speed. You had to be able to write a certain speed. You had to have a certain dialect. Oh, yeah, they did all of that back then. And it was Democrats that didn't want blacks to vote because they've always wanted them. We'll control you, but when you do, then guess what? We'll give you these goodies. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. We'll give you X, Y, Z. We'll give you freebies. Just keep voting for us. During the Ellis Island times, come over. We'll give you food. We'll give you clothes. We'll give you housing. We'll give you everything. Just vote for the Democrat because that way we can continue to provide this for you. That's what they've done since the beginning, and that's what they're doing now. When they say there's no proof of voter fraud, it's because we've never been allowed to do a study. We've never been allowed to actually study it in depth. The judicial review has shown numerous times that certain counties, especially in California, have had 2-3 million illegal registrant voters, meaning people that may have died that haven't been taken off the voter registry lists, people that are illegal aliens that shouldn't have gotten it in the first place, people that have moved that didn't unregister, so therefore they're still on the registration list. If there's 3,000 people that shouldn't be on the registration list, How do you know that they didn't miraculously get a mail-in voter ballot in, cast, and counted in those areas? Because, well, hey, they were on the registration list. Hasn't been updated. So what the Voter Integrity Commission did just a few years back is they wanted to study, they wanted an international database, or not an international, they wanted a national database to be able to compare and contrast all the states, all the counties, all the districts, to be able to compile all this data, make sure that there's no duplicates in the system, and start cleaning it up. The UCLA, or the ACLU, whatever, bunch of crazy left-wing letters, doesn't matter, they're all progressives. They went nuts. They sued, and they sued, and they sued, and they blocked it over and over and over and over again, and they were never allowed to do anything until they finally just had to close it up and be done with it. They tried, and we weren't allowed to survey. We weren't allowed to study. We weren't allowed to see whether fraud was going on or not. So that way, they can play ignorance and they can turn the blind eye. And when we say, wait a second, there's potential voter fraud going here, we're concerned about this. Government's not very efficient at things. Maybe we should hold off a little. Maybe we should study this a little more. Maybe we should find ways to take you to the voting booth, since you can go and get groceries. You can go and cast a ballot very easily. We spent millions of dollars on security and safety equipment for PPE requirements, whatever else we need in order for poll workers to actually be there. It's going to be safe, but yet we can't do that. When we claim that there's potential voter fraud going on, they say, no. There's no study that proves that. It's not really happening. But we won't be allowed to do the test to prove it one way or another. We can't do the study. We can't do the research because they won't let us. But when we say, well, there's possible, let's check it out. No. There's none. There's no proof. There's no evidence of it whatsoever. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Lots more coming up. One more segment here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com.
Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hooser Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn,
Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the program today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites and have the show automatically downloaded to your phone or computer every single day. Just find us on any podcasting site or go to HooserReason.podbean.com. And be sure to check out our Patreon site, become the ultimate Hooserholic, and help us fight for conservative values every day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Now back to the national broadcast of the Voice of Reason.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
The show goes by way too fast. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Wrapping up today on a Monday. We have a whole laundry list of awesome guests coming up over the next few days. You're not going to want to miss it. We will be at this time, if you're watching on the live streaming and stuff online, we will be at this time this whole week as we have baseball games here on our flagship here on KQAM. So we're doing the show just a little bit earlier. You can still listen to us all over on radio at the same times on the stations that are carrying the program, also on the TV stations as well. Plus, the podcast will go up shortly after, too. So it's still plenty of ways to listen to it, but just here on KQAM, actually, you won't be able to listen to the show because they'll be airing some baseball games, which is all right. So lots of opportunities for you to catch the program, especially right here, which we've been rocking it with a lot of the social media hits on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter with some great numbers there. So thank you for that, and we appreciate it very much. We're continuously growing. We're seeing an upward trend, kind of like the stock market. So we don't see the dips. We see the continuous trend upward, which makes me very proud. Even if it's small, sometimes it grows, but it's steady growth, and we always love that and appreciate it. Real quickly with that, it's so funny. I always get the comment about the Irish music's coming up for the last segment of the show. Talk about the strength there. I don't know if you've seen this story or not. There is a woman, an Irish woman. She is 102 years old. She has survived. She has gotten and survived the flu of 1918, like the big pandemic that went on there. She got the flu then, survived it. She has survived 2 bouts of cancer, and now she has survived COVID-19. She got it, and she survived it. She's 102. This is from the StanfordAdvocate.com. Mildred Geraldine, quote-unquote, Jerry Shapples, is one of the few people in the world who have survived the pandemic, the flu during 1918 as a baby, 2 bouts of cancer, and now is fully recovered from COVID-19 in the pandemic of 2020. Wow. Now, when they asked her, they did an interview with her, and she's still all feisty and doing her thing, which is awesome to watch. She's a little hard of hearing, so her daughter ended up doing a lot of the yelling in order for her to hear, kind of thing. But when they asked her what was her cure, what did she do? She said that the flu of 1918 strengthened everything about me. I never had colds or illnesses until I got cancer, and even then I pulled through. It's either that or Mother Nature thinks I died in 1918, so she ignored me. But fighting it, she recommends being exposed to things to build up the immunity, because by 1918, she had the worst kind of flu there was. And after that, never got the flu, never got sick, never got ill until she got cancer. So while we have the I don't want to say snowflakes, but while we get the certain individuals that just want to protect themselves from the world, and to the point where you've seen and heard of many of these individuals that just say they want to wear masks continuously, even during flu season, because they don't want to get the flu in a biological world. While we have those people, we've been the ones on this side screaming, yeah, be careful, use common sense. But at the same time, let's build up an immunity to this thing. We've had guests on talking about herd immunity, trying to build up immunity in society. So because we live in a biological world, let's build up antibodies so that way we can fight these types of things. And viruses, I know, I get it, are a little bit different than flus, but she's got it going on. She's 102. She's beat the flu of 1918. She's beat 2 bouts of cancers, and she's beat the coronavirus. I think maybe either she's a fluke of Mother Nature, or we should maybe listen to her a little bit. What do you say? But we're in a world today where we don't necessarily listen to our elders for advice, right? Remember the whole Native American trick? You used to listen to your elders. They used to tell stories and teach you lessons. And you experience some, and you listen to some, and learn some, and then you go about your world and try and figure it out from there on. We don't do that anymore, do we? Not a whole lot. Real quickly to wrap up the show, as we talk about the mail-in ballots and the potential voter fraud, here's another side to this to think about and to ponder in your mind as you go into an election day tomorrow. And if you do the mail-in voting, it has to be mailed out and stamped by the end of the day tomorrow, because it's still election day, so it has to be there. And hopefully do it sooner than that. We have provisional ballots. We don't want to be waiting a week in order to figure out who the winner is sometimes. We want to know on election night. So if you're doing the mail-in voting, at least send it out a couple days prior to. That would be appreciated. Don't be the procrastinator. Procrastinators unite tomorrow, right? That's what we do. But while we talk about that, think about this side of it as well. There's a story from ncsl.org where they talk about is postage, where many states actually require you to buy the postage for your ballot if you mail it out. And if you do, is that an infringement on your right to vote? Because some states provide the stamp for you to where you don't have to stamp it, you can put it in the mail. Or you purchasing the stamp, does that mean that you have to have the money to purchase the stamp to put it on there to mail it? Is that an infringement on your right to vote? I see that as a convenience tax if you don't want to go to the polling place. Others see it as, well, how dare you actually make me charge the 12 cents or 50 cents, whatever it is, for a stamp now to put it on a mail-in ballot to send it in. I shouldn't have to pay for that because that's my ballot and I shouldn't have to do that. Think about that. We'll talk about that tomorrow more when we come back for Election Day, at least here in the state of Kansas. I'm loving it, my friends. It's going to be a great one. Until then, be your own voice of reason. It's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Podcast going up a little bit back after this tomorrow with some great new guests. Make sure to stay tuned in all week long here on The Voice of Reason. We appreciate you. Everybody have a great Monday evening. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.